All right, so we are here today to, I'm here today to talk to you guys about something called the Old Harry Oil Well, which is an oil well that is planned for the Gulf of St. Lawrence. Specifically, I want to talk about what that means to us in PEI and to other provinces in the Maritimes. Now, before I start talking about that well, just take a step back to 2010. Anyone remember what happened in 2010 last year in April? Mm-hmm. Raise your hand. Oh, surprising considering I talked about it about 5 minutes ago. There was an accident, an accident on an oil well in the Gulf of Mexico. Imagine a really, really big boat on water, and it exploded. 11 people died, and the structure that held all the oil in the ground broke, and millions of liters of oil were leaked into the sea. If you look at a map of this looks like a satellite picture. If you imagine this is the southern part of the United States, a close-up right here shows the well being somewhere around here, and you see the oil spread out probably over hundreds of kilometers. And eventually a lot of that oil ended up coming into contact with the shores throughout these states right here. And a picture taken of right there on the edge of the shore, you can see all the oil coming up into the wetlands of the southern United States. Wetlands are very, very, very fragile spots. It's basically a whole bunch of grass growing out of the water from very, very shallow ground. You guys ever heard of Hurricane Katrina?
Yes.
Big hurricane that happened in 2005. These wetlands actually help to protect the rest of the states. Like they're kind of like a padding that protects the rest of the ground from the hurricanes. They help to reduce the amount of waves and the amount of damage that comes into the land. So this oil had a huge impact on the wetlands. We're talking about billions of dollars in losses in terms of fishing, tourism, and we will never be able to figure out how much damage it caused to actual wildlife, fish and plants and lobster, etc., etc. Now, just real quick, what is an oil well? Of course, I left all my markers in the classroom. Imagine that this is the water, and then deep underwater is the bottom, the ground. Should probably. And there's little fishies, and there's lobsters walking around, and etc., etc., etc. It's not good. The reason why we go drill wells in the middle of the sea is because somewhere under the ground is a big pocket of oil. Anyone know what oil is?
Uh-huh.
Wait. Yes?
It's stuff that like you can heat your house with and stuff.
Good point. What I meant was, how did this oil get here in the underground? Justine?
Decomposed animals and everything.
Decomposed animals and plants that lived millions of years ago. Basically, it's dead dinosaurs. That's why we call it fossil fuels. But dinosaurs millions of years ago, when they died and the plants died and all piled up, and then there was dirt on top of them and rocks and the pressure and the heat, and millions of years later, oil. And like you said, we take that oil, we take it out, we turn it into fuel, we turn it into oil to heat our homes, we turn it into paint, we turn it into plastic, etc., etc., etc. It's very, very important to us. So to get it out, what we do is we build a big boat, and on that big boat is, if you want to simplify it, a really, really big drill. And we take that drill and we drill into the ground all the way to the oil well. And then we pump the oil out and we bring it ashore and we use it. Now, the oil well that's planned in the Gulf of St. Lawrence, at that well, the depth here is 500 meters, and that's something to keep in mind. Okay? If you were to do track and field, you go around the track once, and then you do another 100-meter sprint. That's how deep it is underground. We'll get back to that. Now, where we want to put this oil well is in the Gulf of St. Lawrence. So eastern coast of Canada, this is Quebec, l'île d'Anticosti, Newfoundland, Nova Scotia, New Brunswick's right here. This is the United States. Magdalen Islands. This is us, and we're like right there. And the well is pretty much right in between the Magellan Islands and Nova Scotia. Okay, so about 300 clicks from Gaspésie, 80 kilometers from the Maggies, and 100 kilometers from Newfoundland. And this would be the first oil well to ever be built in the Gulf of St. Lawrence. Now, I'm having a technical difficulty with my link, so I'll just do it manually. The David Suzuki Foundation, which is an environmental foundation that works on anything related to the environment, created, with the help of other people, other scientists that are specialists in this kind of field, they created a simulation, a computer simulation. Now, for those of you who are used to playing Halo 3 and all those other games, the graphic quality will be more than disappointing. But still, what they did is they looked at how the water moves around in the Gulf of St. Lawrence, and they created a simulation to see, okay, well, if there's an oil spill, where's the oil going to go? Because that's kind of important to know. In the Gulf of Mexico, it was pretty simple. The waves pretty much come in and move out, so it was pretty simple in terms of where the oil is going to go. In the Gulf of St. Lawrence, it's a little bit more complicated. Okay? The Gulf of St. Lawrence is home to a bountiful and delicate ecosystem. The neighboring communities of Quebec and Atlantic provinces depend on the Gulf for economic and cultural reasons. Plans to explore, well, this is what I just explained before. To illustrate how catastrophic an oil spill in Old Harry could be, the David Suzuki Foundation, with the help of specialized experts, created this simulation. So this is the days, and you can see the oil being simulated as represented by all these black dots. I know it doesn't look great. And all these red dots you see are where the oil is going to hit the shore. Okay, so once you do the whole simulation, after 27 days, all this green stuff is where the oil is going to be. Now, a couple of things that are pretty important. You're getting oil on all the 5 eastern provinces: Nova Scotia, New Brunswick, Quebec, Newfoundland, and of course PEI. What can be particularly scary for some people is how much oil would be on the Magellan Islands. How do they make money in the Magellan Islands? They fish, and they get tourists to come see them. Well, it's hard to fish and to have tourists come by boat when there's oil all over the place. But we'll get back to that. If any of you have ever been to
Cape Breton.
thank you, Cape Breton, that's Cape Breton right there, all covered in oil. Okay? So if they kind of rotate the camera around. So that's basically it. This is how the oil would spread. And this is just 27 days. After more days than that, then there would just be more oil spread out over more distances. And the oil spill in the Gulf of Mexico lasted 3 months. This is only after 27 days. An oil spill in the Gulf of St. Lawrence would be probably worse because A, we get more crazy weather. B, we have winter. And when there's ice and there's winter, it's basically impossible to stop oil from leaking, to start cleaning up, because there's ice and there's ice flows, and there's icebergs coming around and polar bears to fight off.